The 5 alien students stood nervously at the entrance of Seoul National University. They had traveled across the galaxy to study on Earth, a planet with a scary name, Deathworld. Taeyong's skin glowed slightly in the morning sunlight. As a Lumerian, his green-tinted skin could make food from light, just like Earth plants. He touched the special badge on his chest. It would protect him if Earth's air became too dangerous. "I can't believe we're actually here," Taeyong said, looking up at the tall university buildings. Next to him, Ju shifted inside her water-filled suit. The clear bubble around her head showed her blue-tinted face and large, dark eyes. On her water planet, everyone could read minds. Here, she had to use words. "The gravity feels so strong," complained Hyunwoo. His tall, thin body leaned on a walking stick. The heavy boots on his feet kept him from floating away. On his home planet, people could jump over buildings. Here, he felt like he was being crushed. Yoonha checked the temperature controls on her suit again. Her people lived on a planet where the temperature never changed. Too much heat or cold could make her very sick. "There's so much noise in this planet's fields," said Do-yeon. His crystal-like skin caught the sunlight as he adjusted his headphones. They blocked out Earth's many radio waves and signals that gave him headaches. Professor Kim walked up to the group. He was a normal-looking human with gray at his temples and a kind smile. "Welcome to Earth," he said with a small bow. "I know our world seems scary to you. That's why they call it a death world. But humans have lived here for thousands of years. You'll be safe with us." The aliens looked at each other nervously. Their home planets were paradise worlds. No dangerous weather, no harmful animals, no diseases, and no natural disasters. "Please follow me to your living quarters," Professor Kim said. "They've been made special for each of you." As they walked through the campus, human students stared at them with curious eyes. Some smiled and waved. "Why aren't they afraid?" whispered Juwoo. "Don't they know how dangerous their world is?" "That's what you're here to learn," Professor Kim replied. "Humans don't see Earth the way the rest of the galaxy does." They entered a building with a sign that read Interspecies Department. Inside, 5 different rooms waited for them. Taeyong's room had special lights that matched his home sun. Juwoo's room had a water tank for sleeping. Hyunwoo's room had reduced gravity. Yoonha's room kept a perfect temperature. Do-yeon's room blocked all outside signals. "Tomorrow, your classes will begin," said Professor Kim. "You'll study alongside human students. Your main project this year will be to understand why Earth is classified as it is, and how humans have adapted." A young human male entered the room, carrying drinks on a tray. "This is Juno," Professor Kim said. "He's a human student who will be your guide." Juno smiled. "I brought you all water. It's clean, I promise." The aliens looked at the water with fear. On their worlds, Earth water would be considered poison because of its mineral content. "It's perfectly safe," Junho said, taking a big drink from his cup. "See." The aliens watched in shock as he swallowed the water that would make them sick. "The first lesson about Earth," Professor Kim said, noticing their reactions. "What is dangerous to you is normal to us. We evolved here with all its threats and challenges." Taeyong looked out the window at the blue sky. Dark clouds were moving in. He had read that water sometimes fell from Earth's sky. How terrifying. "I wonder if we made a mistake coming here," he whispered to the others. "The Galactic University Board chose you 5 because you are the best," Professor Kim said. "This year won't be easy, but you'll learn why, despite being from a death world, humans were welcomed into the Galactic Council." Thunder rumbled in the distance, making all 5 aliens jump. Junho just laughed. "Looks like you'll get to experience rain on your first day," he said cheerfully. "Don't worry, it's just water falling from the sky. It won't hurt you." But the aliens weren't convinced. Their year on Deathworld had just begun, and they were already afraid. 1 week had passed since the alien students arrived on Earth. Each day brought new surprises that made them understand why their home planet's called Earth a Deathworld. Taeyong sat by his window, watching the sunrise. Yesterday, it had been warm and sunny. Today, dark clouds filled the sky and cold rain fell. He checked the temperature reading on his suit. It had dropped 15 degrees overnight. How do humans plan anything when the weather changes so fast? He wondered. On his home planet, the weather stayed the same all year. A knock came at his door. It was Ju, her water-filled helmet showing worry on her blue face. "Did you sleep well?" she asked. Taeyong shook his head. "I kept waking up because of the temperature changes. What about you?" "I analyzed the water they gave me for my tank," Ju said. "It has minerals that would kill people on my planet, but humans drink this every day." They walked together to meet the others for breakfast. In the dining hall, they found Hyunwoo struggling to lift his spoon. "I hate this gravity," Hyunwoo said. His arms shook with effort. "I've been here a week, and I'm always tired. Humans carry heavy bags, run upstairs, and even exercise for fun. How do they do it?" Yoon had joined them, her temperature-controlled suit humming as it worked harder than usual. "The weather report says it will be cold this morning, warm at noon, and then cold again tonight," she said. "On my planet, if the temperature changed even 5 degrees, we would call it a disaster. Here, it happens every day." Do-hyun was the last to arrive. His crystal-like skin looked dull, and he kept adjusting his signal-blocking headphones. "I couldn't sleep," he said. "This planet has too many electronic signals. Radio waves, cell phones, Wi-Fi, television broadcasts. They're everywhere. My head hurts all the time." Juno appeared with a tray of food. Unlike the special meals prepared for the aliens, his tray held what looked like dangerous items to them. "Good morning," he said cheerfully. "Ready for your second week of classes." The aliens stared as Hyunho bit into a spicy pepper that would burn Taeyong's sensitive skin, drank coffee that would make Ju sick, and lifted a heavy book with ease, while Hyunwoo struggled with his spoon. "How can you be so normal about everything?" Yoonha asked. Junho looked confused. "What do you mean?" "Your planet tries to kill you every day," Do-hyun said. "Extreme weather, dangerous foods, crushing gravity, radiation from your sun, microscopic life forms that cause disease. How are you not scared all the time?" Shunho laughed. "I guess I never thought about it that way. This is just home to us." Professor Kim joined their table. "That's your first important lesson," he said. "What seems deadly to you is simply normal to humans. We evolved on this world, so our bodies adapted to its challenges." "But why is your species considered special in the galaxy?" Taeyong asked. "Many planets have life." "That's what you'll discover this year," Professor Kim said with a smile. "Now, let's get to today's class. We're studying human history." In class, the aliens learned how early humans survived ice ages, droughts, predators, and disease. They watched videos of humans living in deserts where water was scarce, in Arctic regions of extreme cold, in jungles full of dangerous animals, and in places with frequent natural disasters. "Humans don't just survive here," Professor Kim explained. "They find ways to live almost anywhere on the planet." After class, the aliens gathered in their common room, feeling overwhelmed. "I don't understand these creatures," Hyunwoo said. "They're physically weaker than many species, yet they've spread across their entire planet, and now into space. And they seem to enjoy challenges," Ju added, remembering how Juno had talked excitedly about climbing mountains for fun. Taeyong looked out at the rain, which had finally stopped. A rainbow now stretched across the sky. "Maybe there's something we're missing," he said. "Maybe living on a death world gives humans something we don't have." "What could that be?" Yoonha asked. "I don't know," Taeyong replied. "But I think that's what we're here to find out." 1 month into their stay on Earth, Professor Kim called the 5 alien students to a special meeting. They gathered in the classroom, each still struggling with Earth's harsh conditions in their own way. Today, I'm giving you your main assignment for the year, Professor Kim announced. You will work on a research project called Understanding Earth's Evolutionary Pressures and Human Adaptability. The aliens looked at each other nervously. What exactly will we need to do? Asked Taeyong, his photosynthetic skin glowing dimly under the classroom lights. Professor Kim smiled. You will experience different Earth environments, safely, of course, and study how humans have adapted to live in them. He handed each student a tablet with details about the project. This sounds dangerous, Yumha said, her temperature suit humming softly. We're supposed to visit forests, oceans, and mountains. You'll have safety equipment and guides, Professor Kim assured them. Junho has volunteered to be your main human guide. Junho waved from the back of the room. Don't worry, I'll keep you all safe. Later that day, the aliens met in the university's biology lab for their first experiment. They would study how Earth's plants and animals had evolved defenses against threats. Be careful with these plants, Junho warned as they examined specimens. Some have thorns, some are poisonous, and some attract helpful insects. Your planet's life forms fight each other constantly, Do-hyun observed, his crystal skin reflecting the laboratory lights. Even plants have weapons. It's how they survive, Junho explained. Everything on Earth had to develop ways to stay alive in a competitive world. As they worked, Ju accidentally knocked over a small bottle of chemicals. The green liquid spilled across the table. Emergency, Taeyong shouted, backing away quickly. Containment breach. All 5 aliens rushed to the door, following the safety protocols they had learned. But Junho didn't move. Instead, he calmly pressed a button on the wall, grabbed some paper towels, and put on a pair of gloves. What are you doing? Hyunwoo called out, horrified. That could be dangerous. It's just a mild acid, Junho said, carefully cleaning up the spill. The gloves protect my hands. No big deal. The aliens watched in shock as Junho neutralized the spill with another chemical, wiped everything clean, and disposed of the materials in a special container. You should have evacuated, Ju said, her voice trembling inside her water helmet. That's the protocol for chemical spills. Junho shrugged. For major spills, yes, but this was minor. If we evacuated for every small accident, we'd never get any work done. Professor Kim, who had heard the commotion, entered the lab. Is everyone all right? Junho just exposed himself to potentially harmful chemicals. Yoonha explained, still shocked. Professor Kim nodded understanding. I see what happened. This is actually a good teaching moment. Junho, would you explain your risk assessment? I knew the chemical was only mildly corrosive, Junho said. The safety sheet says it can irritate skin, but isn't life-threatening. The gloves provide enough protection, and I knew how to neutralize it. The risk was minimal. But how did you know all that in a split second? Do-hyun asked. Training and experience, Junho replied. Humans learn to quickly judge dangers. We have to, living on Earth. Later, as they walked back to their living quarters, the aliens discussed what had happened. I think I'm starting to understand, Taeyong said quietly. Humans don't just survive despite dangers. They've learned to live with constant threats. They don't panic at every risk, Hyunwoo added. They evaluate and respond appropriately. It's still crazy, Ju said. On my world, we would have sealed the entire building for even a small chemical spill. Taeyong looked at the sunset painting the sky in brilliant colors. Maybe that's part of why Earth is called a Deathworld. Not just because it's dangerous, but because its people have learned to face danger every day without fear. That makes humans sound almost brave, Yumna said. They all fell silent, considering this new perspective on their human hosts. 3 months into their stay on Earth, the alien students were in the university library. They were researching human adaptations to different environments for their project. Despite the challenges, they were slowly getting used to Earth's conditions. Suddenly, the floor began to shake. Books fell from shelves. Lights swung from the ceiling. A low rumbling sound filled the air. "What's happening?" screamed Taeyong, his green skin turning pale. "Earthquake," Shino called out. Everyone under the tables. The 5 aliens froze in terror. On their planets, the ground never moved. It was solid and safe. But here on Earth, even the planet itself was dangerous. Hyunwoo, already weak from Earth's gravity, collapsed to the floor. "We're going to die," he cried. But around them, the human students were moving with surprising calm. They quickly got under tables, covered their heads, and waited. No one was screaming. No one was running in panic. Junho grabbed Hyunwoo and pulled him under a sturdy table. "Come on," he called to the others. "It's not a big one, but take cover anyway." After 30 seconds that felt like hours to the aliens, the shaking stopped. Alarms began to sound throughout the building. "Is it over?" Ju asked, her water-filled helmet sloshing from the movement. "That was just a moderate earthquake," Junho said, helping them out from under the table. "About a 5.2, I guess. We get them sometimes." The aliens looked around in shock. The human students were already coming out from their hiding places. Some were talking about the quake, but no one seemed truly scared. They simply followed the evacuation procedures, walking calmly toward the exits. "Why aren't they terrified?" Do-hyun asked, his crystal body still vibrating from fear. "The planet just tried to kill everyone." Professor Kim appeared at the library door, checking on his students. "Everyone all right?" "Good. Let's move outside for the safety check." Outside, students gathered in open areas away from buildings. University staff checked attendance lists. Emergency workers inspected buildings for damage. This is a normal drill for them, Yunho realized, watching the humans work efficiently. They expect the ground to try to kill them. Professor Kim joined the alien students. "Are you all okay? I know this must be frightening for you." "How do humans live like this?" Taeyong asked, knowing the ground could shake at any time. "We adapt," Professor Kim said simply. "We build stronger buildings. We practice drills. We learn to live with the risks." "But why build cities here at all?" Ju asked. "Why not move somewhere safer?" Professor Kim smiled. "That's an excellent question for your research project. Let's discuss it when we return to class." Later that day, once buildings were declared safe, they gathered in their classroom. The aliens were still shaken, but the human students acted as if nothing unusual had happened. "Today's earthquake gives us a perfect topic to discuss," Professor Kim said. Ju asked why humans build cities in dangerous areas. "The truth is, most of Earth has some kind of natural threat." He showed a map on the screen. Red areas marked earthquake zones. Blue showed flood risks. Yellow highlighted tornado regions. Green indicated hurricane paths. Purple showed volcanic areas. The map was almost completely covered in colors. "There are very few truly safe places on Earth," Professor Kim explained. "So instead of avoiding danger, humans learn to prepare for it." "That's insane," Hyunwoo said. "On our worlds, we would never build in risky areas." "You have that luxury," Junho said. "Your planets are paradise worlds. Earth isn't. We had to adapt or die. And that adaptation made humans strong," Professor Kim added. "We don't just survive disasters. We rebuild, improve, and continue living." That night, as small aftershocks occasionally shook their building, the alien students couldn't sleep, not just because of the danger, but because of what they had realized. "I think I understand something now," Taeyong said to the others. "Humans don't just live on a death world. The death world helped create what humans are." "What do you mean?" asked Yuna. "Their planet tried to kill them over and over," Taeyong explained. "And instead of giving up, they got stronger each time." The others thought about this as another small tremor shook the building. "That's a frightening thought," Do-hyun said quietly. "What kind of species emerges from thousands of years of surviving the unsurvivable?" 4 months into their Earth stay, Professor Kim announced a special plan. Next week, we begin our field trip to study Earth's major environments. He told the alien students, we'll visit 5 different biomes in 2 weeks. The aliens looked at each other with worry. Is it safe? Asked Taeyong, remembering the earthquake they had experienced. We've prepared special protection for each of you, Professor Kim assured them. And Junho will come with us. Junho grinned. I've packed all the emergency supplies we could need. Don't worry. Their first stop was the Amazon rainforest. The moment they stepped off the plane, the heat and humidity hit them like a wall. It's so wet, gasped Yuna, her temperature suit working overtime. And hot. How can anything live here? The forest was loud with animal sounds. Insects buzzed everywhere. Plants grew on top of other plants. Life was packed into every space. This forest has more types of living things than all our home planets combined, Doyan noted, recording data on his tablet. Their guide showed them through the dense jungle. They saw colorful birds, strange insects, and trees taller than buildings. Many of these plants and animals are poisonous, the guide explained. They evolved defenses to survive. That night, as they slept in a research station, a thunderstorm rolled through. Lightning flashed and thunder boomed. Rain pounded on the roof. Even the sky is trying to kill us, Ju said, hiding under her blanket. It's just a storm, Junho said, yawning. The building has lightning rods. We're safe. Their next stop was the Sahara Desert. The heat was intense and dry. Sand stretched as far as they could see. There's no water, Taeyong said, feeling his skin dry out despite his protective suit. How do humans survive here? Their guide, a local man, showed them how desert people had adapted. They collected every drop of water. They built homes that stayed cool. They knew which rare plants could be eaten. Humans have lived in this desert for thousands of years, Professor Kim explained. They found ways to survive where nothing should live. Next came the Pacific Ocean. The aliens stared in terror at the endless water. It's so big, whispered Ju, who came from a water world. But your oceans are wild and dangerous. Ours are calm and controlled. They boarded a research ship. Waves rocked the vessel. Junho showed them how to move with the ship's motion to avoid falling. Humans sail across these waters in ships much smaller than this one, Professor Kim told them. They'd been doing it for thousands of years. The vast ocean made the aliens feel tiny and vulnerable. When a storm approached, the captain changed course. The ocean has no mercy, the captain told them. We respect its power and stay safe. Their fourth stop was Antarctica. Cold wind howled around them as they stepped off the plane at a research base. This is where I feel most comfortable, Do-Yun said, his crystal body handling the cold better than the others. The human researchers showed them how they survived in the extreme cold. Special buildings kept heat in. They wore many layers of clothes. They ate high-energy food. The temperature can drop to -70 degrees Celsius here, a researcher explained. Without protection, a human would die in minutes. Yet you choose to live here, Yuma asked, amazed. To learn, to discover, the researcher said simply. That's what humans do. Their final stop was Mount Fuji in Japan. As they climbed partway up the volcano, Hyunwoo struggled with each step. Humans climb mountains for fun, he panted, leaning on his walking stick. Yes, Junho said, helping him over a rough spot. We call it a challenge. At their resting point, Professor Kim gathered the aliens to look at the view. What have you learned from our field trip? He asked. That Earth has no safe places, Taeyong said. Every environment tries to kill humans in different ways. And yet, Ju added, humans not only survive but choose to explore even the most dangerous places. Professor Kim nodded. That's right. And why do you think that is? The aliens thought about all they had seen. Because, Hyunwoo said slowly, danger doesn't stop humans. It challenges them. 6 months into their Earth stay, the aliens entered a new phase of their research project. It was time to study human biology in detail. Today, we start our advanced anatomy class, Professor Kim announced. You'll learn how human bodies work and how they've adapted to Earth. The classroom had a life-size model of a human body. Charts on the walls showed human organs, bones, and systems. Let's begin with the basics, Professor Kim said. Humans have an internal skeleton made of bones. Like Dohyun's crystal structure, Taeyong noted. Similar, but different, Professor Kim explained. Our bones can break. That sounds like a design flaw, Ju said. Professor Kim smiled. Watch this video. The screen showed a human with a broken arm. Then it showed how doctors put the bone in a cast. Finally, it showed the bone healing over time. Humans can repair broken bones. Yoonha asked in shock. Yes, Professor Kim said. Our bodies constantly repair themselves. The aliens watched in amazement as Professor Kim explained more about human healing. If I cut my skin, Junho demonstrated with a small scratch on his finger, it will close up and heal in days. That's impossible, Hyunwoo said. On my world, if someone breaks, they need medical replacement parts. Humans evolved to survive damage, Professor Kim explained. We had to, living on Earth. Next, they learned about the human immune system. Right now, your bodies are fighting millions of tiny invaders, Professor Kim told the class. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, all trying to make you sick. The aliens looked horrified. We're under attack, Taeyong asked, checking his protective suit for leaks. Every day of our lives, Junho said casually. Our bodies fight these battles without us even noticing. Professor Kim showed them blood samples under a microscope. They watched white blood cells attack bacteria. Your bodies are at war constantly, Dohyun said, amazed. And you don't even know it's happening. Evolution gave us these defenses, Professor Kim said. Earth is full of things that can make us sick. We adapted. The most shocking revelation came when they studied human endurance. Humans can go 3 days without water, Professor Kim told them, and 3 weeks without food. That's not possible, Ju insisted. Living things need constant nutrition. Our bodies store energy and conserve resources, Professor Kim explained. It helped our ancestors survive when food was scarce. What about sleep? Yuma asked. Surely you need that. Humans can stay awake for days if needed, Junho said. It's not healthy, but we can do it in emergencies. The aliens struggled to accept what they were learning. Humans seemed almost impossible, built to endure a planet that constantly tried to kill them. Then Professor Kim showed them something truly disturbing. Early humans were persistence hunters, he explained, showing ancient cave paintings. We couldn't run as fast as animals, but we could run longer. What does that mean? Taeyong asked. It means, Professor Kim said, that humans would chase animals until the animals got tired and collapsed. We would follow them for hours or even days, never letting them rest. The aliens looked at Junho with new eyes. The friendly human student suddenly seemed like something from a nightmare, a creature that would never stop, never give up, never rest until it caught its prey. That's terrifying, Dohyun whispered. It was necessary, Junho said simply. It's how we survived. After class, the aliens gathered in their common room, trying to process what they had learned. No wonder Earth is called a Deathworld, Taeyong said. It created creatures that are almost impossible to kill. Think about it, Hanwoo added. Humans can survive losing blood. They can heal broken bones. They can fight off millions of invaders too small to see. They can go days without water or food. And they can chase prey until it dies of exhaustion, Ju said with a shudder. Yoonha looked out the window at students playing sports on the field. The scariest part, she said quietly, is that they're still so normal. They laugh and play and study. How can they be so ordinary when they're actually survival machines? Do-Yun's crystal face reflected the setting sun. I think that's what makes humans unique in the galaxy. They evolved as survivors, but they live as dreamers. The others fell silent, watching the human students outside. For the first time, they felt something new when looking at their hosts, not just curiosity or fear, but respect. 8 months into their stay on Earth, the alien students had grown more comfortable with their dangerous surroundings. They still used their protective equipment, but they no longer jumped at every noise or weather change. It was a normal Tuesday afternoon. The aliens were in the chemistry lab with Junho and several human students. Professor Kim was checking their work on an experiment about Earth materials. Suddenly, a loud alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed in the hallway. "Fire alarm!" shouted one of the human students. "Everyone out." The students began moving quickly toward the exit. The aliens followed, remembering the evacuation drills they had practiced. "Stay calm and walk to the assembly point," Junho told them, guiding the group down the hallway. As they reached the building's main exit, they heard a crash from another wing of the building. Smoke began to fill the corridor. "There's a real fire," Taeyong said, his green skin paling with fear. Outside, in the safety of the assembly area, the humans were counting heads and checking who was present. "Everyone from Lab 3 is here," reported a student to the safety officer. "Wait," said another student. "Where's Min and Hana? They were working in Lab 5. Professor Kim's face turned serious. "Lab 5. That's near where the fire started." Without hesitation, Professor Kim turned and ran back toward the building. "Professor, stop," called Taeyong. "It's too dangerous." But the professor didn't slow down. To the aliens' horror, Junho also started running toward the burning building. "Junho, what are you doing?" cried Juwoo, her water helmet bubbling with agitation. "Helping," Junho called back, before disappearing inside with Professor Kim. The aliens huddled together, watching the smoke rise from the science building. Fire trucks arrived, their sirens wailing. Firefighters in heavy gear rushed into the building. "Why did they go back?" Hyunwoo asked, bewildered. "The safety protocol says to evacuate, not to return to danger." "They went to help their friends," said a human student standing nearby. "Min has a broken leg. She can't run. Hana wouldn't leave her." "But that's crazy," Yuma said. "They're risking their lives." The human student shrugged. "That's what humans do for each other." 15 long minutes passed. The aliens watched the building anxiously. Then, through the smoke at the entrance, 4 figures appeared. 2 firefighters were helping Professor Kim, who was supporting Min on one side. Behind them came Junho, carrying Hana, who seemed unconscious. Medical workers rushed to help them. Oxygen masks were placed over their faces. The injured students were loaded into ambulances. Professor Kim sat on the ground, coughing. His face and hands were burned, and his clothes were blackened by smoke. The aliens approached him cautiously. "Professor, why did you do that?" Do-Yun asked. "You could have died." Professor Kim took a deep breath from his oxygen mask before answering. "They needed help," he said simply. "I couldn't leave them." "But the firefighters were coming," Taeyong said. "You didn't need to risk yourself." "Every minute counts in a fire," Professor Kim explained. "We knew where the students were. We could get to them faster." Later that evening, the aliens visited Professor Kim in the hospital. His burns were bandaged, but the doctors said he would recover fully. Junho was in the next bed, also recovering from smoke inhalation. "In our research about Earth," Taeyong said, "we learned that humans evolved to survive danger. But today, you and Junho ran toward danger. That doesn't make sense." Professor Kim smiled weakly. "Surviving isn't just about saving yourself. Humans learned long ago that we survive better together. Sometimes that means risking yourself for others. On our worlds," Ju said, "safety protocols never allow such risks. It's considered illogical." "Logic isn't everything," Junho said from his bed. Some things matter more than personal safety. Like what? Asked Yuna. Like caring for others, Professor Kim said. Like putting the group before yourself. The aliens were quiet, trying to understand this new idea. I think, Do-Yun said slowly, that this might be the most important difference between humans and us. You don't just adapt to survive dangers. You face dangers to help each other survive. Professor Kim nodded. That's exactly right. And that's what makes us human. As their year on Earth neared its end, the 5 alien students found themselves seeing humans differently. What had first seemed like a primitive species living on a dangerous planet now appeared remarkable and unique. One bright spring morning, Taeyong sat on a bench in the university park. After months on Earth, he had adjusted his protective suit to allow more of Earth's sunlight to reach his photosynthetic skin. It still felt dangerous, but also energizing. Jiwoo joined him, her water helmet now smaller and more comfortable than when she first arrived. Look at the human children, she said, pointing to a nearby playground. A group of small humans were playing in the rain that had just started falling. They jumped in puddles, stuck out their tongues to catch drops, and laughed as they got wet. On my world, rain is dangerous, Taeyong said. It contains acid that burns, but here, children play in it. And they seem so happy doing it, Jiwoo added. Hyunwoo walked up, using only a light cane now instead of his heavy support equipment. Months in Earth's gravity had slowly strengthened his body. I've been reading about human celebrations, he told them. They have holidays for everything. Changing seasons, historical events, religious beliefs. Many of these celebrations are about things that would terrify us. What do you mean? Asked Jiwoo. Winter festivals celebrate the coldest, darkest time of year, Hyunwoo explained. Harvest festivals celebrate when plants die. New Year celebrations mark the passing of time, which brings them closer to death. That is strange, Taeyong agreed. They find joy in conditions we would consider disasters. Yuna and Do-Yun joined them, returning from a class. Professor Kim is back teaching, Yunha reported. His burns have healed well. Humans heal so quickly, Do-Yun noted, both physically and mentally. He almost died in that fire, yet he talks about it like it was just an interesting event. The 5 aliens watched as more humans entered the park. Despite the rain, people jogged, walked dogs, read under trees, and enjoyed the outdoor space. I think I finally understand something important about humans, Taeyong said. Their resilience isn't just physical, it's psychological too. What do you mean? Asked Yuna. Look at them. Taeyong gestured to the people in the park. They live on a planet that tries to kill them daily. They've evolved to survive almost anything. But they don't just survive, they find beauty and joy in their dangerous world. They expect adversity, Jiwoo realized. On our worlds, any problem is unusual and frightening, but humans expect things to go wrong. They're ready for it. And when disaster happens, Hyunwoo added, they help each other through it. A rumble of thunder sounded in the distance. On their first day on Earth, this would have sent the aliens running for shelter. Now they simply looked up at the darkening sky with interest. We've changed too, Do-Yun observed. We're becoming more like them. Chunho spotted them from across the park and jogged over, completely unbothered by the rain soaking his clothes. Hey everyone. Professor Kim wants to meet about your final presentations, he said cheerfully, water dripping from his hair. Aren't you uncomfortable being wet? Yunha asked. Junho shrugged. It's just water. It feels nice on a warm day. As they walked back to the university buildings, Junho splashed through puddles like the children had done. 1 year ago, I thought humans were crazy for living on this deadly planet, Taeyong said quietly to the other aliens. Now I understand they're not just surviving here. They're thriving because of the challenges. Do you think we could ever be like them? Jiwoo asked. I don't know, Taeyong replied. But I'm starting to think that our safe, perfect worlds might have cost us something important. What's that? Asked Do-Yun. The chance to become stronger through struggle, Taeyong said, watching Chuno laugh as he shook water from his hair. The opportunity to find joy despite difficulty. Maybe that's why Earth is called a death world, Yumha suggested, not just because it's dangerous, but because it taught its people to truly live. 1 year after their arrival on Earth, the university held a special ceremony for the 5 alien exchange students. The grand hall was filled with human students, teachers, and even visitors from the Galactic Council who had come to hear their research findings. Taeyong adjusted his formal clothes, no longer wearing his full protective suit. After a year on Earth, he had adapted to allow more direct contact with Earth's environment. His green skin glowed healthily under the lights. "Are you nervous?" asked Chuno, now a close friend to all 5 aliens. "A little," admitted Juwoo, her water helmet now elegantly designed to match her graduation outfit. "What we have to say might upset some people." Professor Kim, fully recovered from his injuries in the fire, called them to the stage one by one. These 5 students came to Earth believing it was simply a dangerous planet, he told the audience. A death world. Now they will share what they've learned. Taeyong spoke first. He showed images of Earth's many environments, from burning deserts to freezing mountains. "On my world, we control our environment completely," he explained. "Nothing changes without permission. Nothing is unexpected. But Earth is always changing, always challenging. This creates stronger life forms." Jiwoo followed, presenting data on human adaptability. "Humans can live almost anywhere," she said. "They change themselves to fit their environment, and they change their environment to fit themselves. This constant adaptation makes them unique in the galaxy." Hyunwoo, standing straighter and stronger after a year in Earth's gravity, spoke about human innovation. "When faced with problems, humans invent solutions," he said. "They don't just accept limitations. They overcome them with new ideas. This creativity comes from living on a world that constantly presents new challenges." Yoonha presented her research on human psychology. "Humans expect difficulty," she explained. "They plan for it. They help each other through it. And most surprisingly, they find joy despite it. This mental resilience is as impressive as their physical adaptations." Finally, Do-yeon shared their most important conclusion. "We came to Earth thinking it was called a death world because it is dangerous," he said. "But we were wrong. Earth is not just a death world that produced humans. Earth is a death world because of humans." The room grew quiet. Even the Galactic Council representatives leaned forward with interest. "Humans are not what they are despite their planet," Do-yeon continued. "They are what they are because of it. And they continue to make Earth more challenging by changing it constantly, pushing themselves to adapt further." Taeyong stepped forward again. "Our final recommendation to the Galactic Council is this. Humans should not be feared for their death world origins. They should be respected for them. As our galaxy faces new threats and challenges, the unique resilience of humans may be exactly what we all need." After the presentation, there was a long moment of silence. Then, the audience erupted in applause. Later, at the graduation party, the 5 aliens gathered with Chuno and Professor Kim one last time before their journey home. "Will you miss Earth?" asked Chuno. "Parts of it," Taeyong admitted. "I'll miss the sunsets, the changing seasons, even the unexpected weather. I'll miss the people most," said Juwoo. "How you face challenges together." Professor Kim smiled. "And what will you tell people on your home planets about humans?" The aliens looked at each other before Do-yeon answered. "We'll tell them that humans are dangerous, yes, but not in the way we thought. You're dangerous because you never give up. You never stop trying. You never accept that something is impossible. Is that good or bad?" asked Chuno with a laugh. "Both, probably," Hyunwoo said. "But the galaxy needs that kind of thinking." As the party continued around them, Taeyong looked out the window at the night sky, where stars represented countless worlds. "When I first arrived, I thought Earth was trying to kill its people," he said quietly. Now I understand it was making them stronger. Will you come back someday? Professor Kim asked. Taeyong smiled. Yes, there's still so much to learn from this death world and its survivors. Yunha raised her glass. To Earth, the death world that teaches life. Humans and aliens lifted their glasses together. Whatever challenges the galaxy might face in the future, they would face them with new understanding and respect for each other's strengths.